For this assignment, I have to determine my final grade for the class. So I've already written out sort of everything I have to do, and I'll just be talking over everything that I did. So first, I listed out all of the averages of my assignments. So my web design assignment is 78%. My projects is 90%. Quiz is 83%. Midterm 83. Final question mark because we don't know. And then these are what each assignment is worth out of the final grade. So the web design is worth 15% of the final grade. Projects is 25, quiz is 24, midterm 16, 20 final. Final is 20. And so the first question, or I guess I could start with talking about how this relates to the class. I think this relates to our percent unit and also the unit we did, unit 1 on the Poly's 4 steps, because I think, this project really relates to that. So by reading the questions, I determined that I would need to use the percent increase formula in order to determine how the increase in percentages would affect my final grade, because in these problems they're going to be swapping out percentages for the final grade and the percentages for the grade for the final test will be. And so I think that required those two elements, like being able to figure out what the problem is, how to solve it, and then also understanding the percent increase from the percent unit. So the first question asked me to determine what my final grade would be if my final test was a 75. So this A represents the total semester grade, and then this represents the final grade, like the final test grade. And so I decided I realized I would have to add up all of the averages in order to determine what the final grade would be. But then I would also have to multiply them by their percentage of the total grade. So in doing so, and then I plugged in 75 for the final. So this is the final, this is for the midterm, this represents the quizzes, this represents the projects, and this represents the web design. So in total, I got that 8.824, and then I turned it into a percent, and so then I got A equals 82.4%. So this is what my total semester grade would be if I got a 75% on the final. So then the next question asks me to assume my goal is to pass the course to the 70%. What would the lowest grade possible be? What would the lowest grade on the final need to be in order to meet this goal? So I plugged in 0.70, I turned it into a decimal for the total grade. And then instead of adding in the final, because we don't know what the final is, and that's what we're trying to determine, I simply just added up the scores for the web design, the projects, the quizzes, and the midterm, and that gave me 0.674. So this 824 was from if the final was 75%, and this is without the final at all. So without the final, my average is 0.674. So then I decided to subtract 0.674 from both sides, and then I divided, and then I got 0.026, and then I divided 2 on both sides, and that gave me 0.13. And so I determined that 13% would be the lowest final grade that I need in order to pass the class with a 70%. And currently, with my trajectory, I do think that is possible. It's well within the averages that I've gotten for the other assignments, so I do think that it is possible. And then the next question asked me to determine what my final grade would need to be if I wanted to pass the class with a 93%. So again, I transformed that into a decimal, and then I kept the averages of all of the midterm web design and the project grades, and I subtracted it on both sides, got 0.256, and then I divided 2 on both sides, which gave me 1.28, and so I determined that I would need 128% on the final on the final to get a 90%, a 93%, which I don't think is possible just because I don't know if we would have questions that would equal that much. And also, I do think that it is well out of the range of averages that I have for the other assignments. So I don't think that it would be possible for me to get, this would be the lowest grade necessary to get a 93. So I don't think that's going to happen. I do think I'm more likely to get something between a 70 and an 80. I think that's like, or 70 and a 90. I think that would be like the average that I would need on the final to pass the entire course. So there we are.